Those of you listening to this tape can join with us in the very interesting and practical experiment we're going to make tonight. We're going to work at it experimentally and also add certain basic principles of knowledge in order to understand more about the mind and how it works. Because finally, it's the understanding of the mind that puts us in control of it, and therefore in control of our whole lives. So will you please, in this room, and those of you listening to this tape, please write down the following on your slips of paper. 1, the figure 1, and after that write directed thought. 1, directed thought. Underneath that, 2, vagabond thought. 2, vagabond thought. And under that, the figure 3, no thought. 3, no thought. All right, just set that aside. We may or may not refer to it again, but just set it aside so you're at ease over it. You won't be writing anything for a while. Now, think for a minute of all the dozens, perhaps hundreds of ways in which the mind can function, can move, can operate. Just think in general. Let's get a general idea of what we're going into. The mind can operate as memory. You can remember how to get home. Function as imagination, which can be either right or wrong imagination. If it's coupled with neurotic suspicion, it'll be wrong imagination. If it's coupled with how to plan a new home you're going to build, that would be right imagination. The mind can be in a right mood, what you call a pleasant mood. It can be in an unpleasant mood. It can select. It can reject. It can be depressed. It can be elated. It can be puzzled. It can be confused. It can tell the truth, and it can tell lies. Just think, you could add many more to that, I'm sure yourself, if you just think about it, all the things that the mind can do. However, tonight, we're going to go into an interesting experiment connected with what you just wrote down. Select 3 of the ways in which it works, and you'll see that they are fundamental. And if you'll remember these, tomorrow, when you go out to your work, when you're around the home, if you'll remember these and practice them, just think, that's why you should write them down. Practice them. It'll be very clear to you how the mind can alternate from one way to another way. Okay? Okay, now, we're first going to take directed thought. In other words, you are going to be in charge of what you're going to think about for the next minute or two. And I will select it for you in this case, but you can select it for yourself anytime you want. You're going to choose deliberately, consciously, to think about a certain thing. But I will select it for now, and then we'll all think about it. I want you to think silently for just a few seconds, and the tape will be silent too, of course. Think deliberately about the harm of liking to be negative. We're going to deliberately think aloud for a moment, and then silently, about the harm in liking to be negative, and we do like it, we prefer it, or we wouldn't fall into it. Because it gives us a sense of I, a good feeling that I am someone, and you're someone else if I can get angry at you. So, directed thought. I have directed you in this case to the subject of seeing the folly of liking negative thought. Now, for the next 30 seconds, ponder it, think about it, run back and forth with it. This subject only, stick with it now. Go ahead. All right, that's enough. Now, you are to select, direct your own subject and think about it for the same period of time. Go ahead, select a subject and just think about it. Make yourself think about that particular topic. All right. Next one is vagabond thought, which was where we live practically all the time. Vagabond thought, which is set off by exterior objects, by interior impressions, by associations, by a word, by a facial expression, by a light bulb that suddenly goes out when we want to read. Associative thought is one way. Now, for the next 30 seconds, you're not to have any concern at all. You're not to give a hoot as to about what you think about. You're going to be in vagabond thought. No direction at all. No selection at all. Think about anything you want. Who cares? Go ahead. But think about something. All right. Maybe you thought about a dozen things in that period of time. Okay. These two are relatively easy. Not much to it. Especially the second one. Now we work hard, and you'll find yourself wondering whether you're doing it or not, and I will assure you that you're probably not. I'm not going to judge your mind, but so that you don't deceive yourself, I will say that you will not do what I'm going to ask you to do next, but we're going to try. We have to start. For the next 30 seconds, don't think about anything at all. All right, what happened? Did any of you succeed? Did any of you fail? What? What happened? Tell me what happened, somebody. Did you think about anything at all? Huh? Yes.
Thinking about not thinking at all.
Yes, right. Right. You know, if you don't want to call it no thinking, you can just call it being in a state of awareness where thought is not present at all. It doesn't mean your mind is asleep. As a matter of fact, you're seeing and hearing exterior objects. It's wide awake, quite wide awake. But it's not at that particular moment caught in any kind of thought at all, including directed thought or vagabond thought. Next experiment. This is very complex. This will take years to master, but we're going to do it. I want you to go into vagabond thought right now. Relax, who cares what you think about? Think about cherry pie or the skies of Montana, anything you want. Now stop. Stop thinking. What are you thinking about now? The assignment, the general assignment, and you won't be asked to report on it or anything at all, but you have it down on paper. The assignment is to practice being in all three states. Try to break yourself, for example, when you're in vagabond thought. and switch to directed thought. You can go from one to the other. Doesn't make any difference. From one to the other too. Just try it. Watch how you can, maybe you're being in no thought at all for a while, and you've sustained it, and in natural alternation, because all three of these are natural, vagabond thought has its place too. You can't be thinking about the same thing all the time. There are associations that are going to carry you away, and it's right and necessary. Otherwise, you wouldn't stop at the boulevard stop. This is your work. It's hard work, and it's a lot of fun. Do it. Do it, for example, in bed when everything is quiet and you're just laying there. Lay there on your back and watch your mind operate and watch where it is. Just watch the location it's in. Then experiment with what you've been told and try to shift it to another one. Look at the value there would be, for example, in laying in bed, and you're thinking about all the things that have happened during the day. Vagabond thought, which is in most cases is wasteful, because you're wondering about your boss or whether you should have done something another way to please someone. Whatever, the whole thing. Stop it. Just stop it and go into directed thought. I'm going to think of how nothing on earth matters but straightening out my mind. Wouldn't that be better to think about than running over and over the same old phonograph record all day long? All right, I'm going to add one thing, and then we're going to go into something else which relates to this. All right, deliberately think about something, anything. Go ahead and think about it. Stop it. Now I'm going to direct you to think about the interior of your home. Imagination, thought. Picture it. What's the interior of your home like? Look at it, see it. Okay? Lamps, chairs, ceiling. Got it? Huh? Did you all think about the interior of your home? All right, stop. Notice something fascinating. Fascinating. We're learning how it works. While you were thinking about the interior of your home, you didn't know you were thinking, did you? Be careful. Be careful. While you were thinking, you didn't know you're thinking. It's impossible. Now you can remember that you thought about it, can't you? You may think you were thinking. You were not. You were absorbed in thinking itself, and there was no one else thinking that you were thinking about it. That was the only thought that was in your mind at the time, the living room, or whatever room you went to. Right? Because the mind goes so fast, we often think that we can think about our thinking, but we can't. We can only think. So that when you are lying down in bed at night and you're thinking about something, practice this too as a little side issue to come to an end of thinking about something and see that at the time that it was on your mind, that is all there was. All this has tremendous practical value. I can't begin to tell you, but we're going to now go into one discussion of how valuable it is. Practical application, tremendous. Joan, do you remember about 3 mornings ago when I was at your house and we were out in the kitchen and I had had my coffee and I had it fixed all ready to drink, and you came out and offered me something? Do you remember the incident at all? Do you remember it? If you don't, I won't ask you to reconstruct it.
Vaguely.
All right. I wanted to tell you something then. I did tell you in a way, best it could without being too strong, to put an end to thought. I look at every one of you here and I see you're unable to break thought. You carry it around with you. You don't know how to be done with something. Whether it's a second ago or 50 years ago, 30 years ago, 10 years ago, or this afternoon in the office where you had that confrontation with someone. you don't know how to be done with it. And isn't that a shame? That we don't know how to put an end to thought, which is the end of me, good, the end of that fighting person. Isn't it beautiful that I can right now, put an end to that angry person of an hour ago, that scared person of 2 hours ago, that desperate person of a week ago. It's astonishing. I'm not being dramatic. I'm telling you. It's astonishing that right now I can be free. You mean to say you're going to spend your spare time in doing anything but exploring this? You mean you're going to let any person or any circumstance stand in the way of you setting yourself a free man, a free woman right now? What do I have to give up? I don't think we've used the word clinging very much. Let's use that. I have to give up clinging to whatever I presently value, which I do not as yet see has no value at all. The security of having a permanent lover. The security of having fixed philosophies. The security of thinking that I am kindly, and you're not. The security of having an exciting future ahead. All that has to go. And I'll add one more thing. Which will become clearer to you as you put together everything we've talked about till now. Listen to this. The people who didn't come to this meeting tonight may never hear it again. They'll never get it. They'll never be able to use it and never be able to work with it. We have to want it. I want you, from now on, to go as fast and as far into your own evil as possible without turning away from it. Because you don't understand the layer after layer after layer after layer of it, because our pseudo-securities, our pictures of ourselves, our ideas about how we've got it made, stand in the way of seeing it, and only by seeing it can I come out of it. I really cannot use words to tell you the enormous thing I'm trying to tell you about. Because you have to experiment it for yourself. Experiment for yourself. Example. You're on the path. You're working on yourself. You come to the meetings, you read the books. You do everything possible to get these things. You will see for the first time a feeling that you are unworthy to be doing this, that you're too evil. Therefore, you're a hypocrite. I come to these meetings and I behave my best, and I make comments and I give little talks, and then I think all these thoughts. I'm a hypocrite. What am I going to do? I better give it up. I shouldn't be a hypocrite. You stay right on the path, being a hypocrite, being lustful after women, being greedy, being petty. You ought to shout with joy to know that nothing out there, and especially nothing in here, can keep you from finding the truth if you will walk on in spite of your own evil. I take a deep breath myself at the enormity of it. Nothing can stop me. Nothing. As long as I don't quit. You have been bluffed by evil long enough. You're not going to let it intimidate you, scare you, make you feel unworthy, or throw you off the path anymore. You have been bluffed long enough by your own sickness. You're not going to listen to it anymore. You're going to put an end to it by keeping on. Look how simple it becomes. Look how simple. All I have to do is walk. I'm not going to listen anymore to any attempts of my own mind to make me feel ashamed of anything I have done or am doing or will do. I'm not going to listen to you anymore. You're not going to make a sinner out of me anymore. You're not going to call me a sinner. You're not going to call me degraded. I'm not going to listen to you anymore. I've done this all my life, and I see what has come of it. True, I don't understand. That I know. True, I don't get it yet. I don't understand. At the same time, I'm through listening to self-condemnation. Heaven knows I want out, and I'm going to find it. I'm going to make it. What I talked about before the first half of the session ended is the same thing as having right rebellion. Now I'll ask you, any of you, and comment please, what do you have to say about right rebellion? Do you feel you're in it? What are you rebelling against? What are you rebelling against, Connie? What's it all about? What?
I'm rebelling against my liking my negativities, my enjoying them.
Yeah. She connected, didn't she? Directed attention. Did your hand go?
Yes. You once said in a meeting that you spent your day arguing with yourself. You know, you were giving out this general thoughts out, and I felt, you know, that's what I actually do myself. Instead of, let's say, I'm to carry out the work project, self-observation. Well, it's not that. I'm arguing with myself most of the time, and it's mostly between guilt thoughts, shameful thoughts, and thinking that I'm working, actually arguing with myself.
All right. All right. Rudy and the rest of us. Excuse me. Can we not catch ourselves arguing and stop it? Why don't you stop it? We know why, don't we? A general statement. Why don't we stop this stupid, useless, energy draining arguing? Simply because that freight train is running so fast and furious, we're not able to yet. But we're getting on to the tricks of it. To use the, make an illustration out of it, we're learning how to turn on the brakes on this freight train. Just first slow it down a little bit. Eventually, put an end to it. Stop it. When a situation is done, be done with it. As, for example, arguing with myself.
On the way out here, I spent 11 hours the first day listening to vagabond thought mostly. And something like 7 or 8 hours the second day. And it's very boring. It's just a horrible. That made the trip awful. Just to have to listen to a mind that went on, and there was no control over stopping it.
Right.
I had an interesting experience driving up here the last time from Wickenburg. It seems driving, for some reason, the mind does just go on and on and on. And of course, driving up so often, I've tried to learn to work with that. And every once in a while, I would catch myself in vagabond thought. And I had the impression at the time, I bring myself back to now, I had the feeling that I was shrinking, that while I was in negative thought, that's all there was. And I could feel myself coming back to where I could feel myself little in a car, in the world. It impressed me that when there is negative thought, it's all me. That's all I am.
That's what you are. That's your
And then when I
world.
want myself back,
Yes.
then I was just a little itty-bitty person in a great big world.
Well,
I mean,
no, Connie, don't put it that way. Because a little person is still a person. A little person always wants to become a big person.
Yeah.
So there, you see, let me ask you a question before I say it. And then if you have more, you can go on. But let me get this, please. Do you see the difficulty of saying what we have to say with words? Do you understand? Because I'm getting here. Look, if you're not there as a little person, then where are you? The question is wrong. When you say, where am I, you're still I. Go ahead.
Well, I think that is the problem, trying to express the feeling there.
Yeah, it's very difficult to talk about this.
The point is that what I did see clearly was that when I was in negative thought, that's all there was.
It's all there was of you, and that's all there was of your world. Because you are your world. That's all there is. Can you imagine? If you can imagine a person putting a torch to the whole world, burning the whole world, what a horrible thing. I am putting a torch to me, to my world. When I hate someone, when I'm furious, when I'm angry, when I'm jealous. You want to live that way? We don't want it anymore. But look. The easiest thing in the world to do is to remain deceived. Very simple. All I have to do is call my anger by another name. Call it energetic enterprise. You get your own labels. All I have to do is call my neurosis dynamism. Say it, Leland. Dynamism. All I have to do is call it something else. I'm free of the problem, and now I can continue to hate you while saying I love you.
The reason that the process of observation is so critical is that We must come to the point that you've just described, namely we must stop calling my anger my justice or my righteousness or something like that. We must see what its actual consequence is, so that the mind which becomes quiet is not the dull mind or the mind which has been made quiet mechanically, but the one which is really alive because it's seen through the consequence of the wrong functioning of the mind.
Yes.
What you said about that we cannot be aware while we're in thought is very easy to see when you're in conversation as well, and how in being in conversation at work, I'm taken away from myself, and it may be a long time before I ever catch it again.
Yes. And you just used a good phrase, or I'll rephrase it. Come back to ourselves. That's what we're doing, coming back to ourselves. I've been arguing with myself for 5 minutes. I've been carrying the weight of the shame of because I did something dumb or said something stupid. The prodigal son has to come back home. I have to drop whatever's out in the vineyards or swineyards or whatever. I have to drop it and come home. In other words, I have to drop the arguing, the jealous, come back to where I really belong, to a conscious mind, this quiet mind you were talking about. There's no argument at all because it's not connected to the past at all. It's not in time at all. See? Not in time. I've dropped time. Then time is used properly. I remember to turn left at the corner instead of right in order to get home. That is time thinking and has its place.
The real meaning of death is separation or division, and the reason that the people that you've described are dead psychologically is that they are incapable of having a relationship with anything that is real, that is, a relationship with truth, with things as they actually exist.
Incapable.
And for this reason, nothing fits. It's like a machine in which all of the gears fail to mesh so that it goes nowhere. It simply spins and has no consequence, no meaning, no vitality.
Gives speeches. It can be turned to hatred. Every dead human being can be turned to hatred in 1 second. Right?
Right.
Have you ever known? Shows you how we understand certain things down at a certain low level. Have you ever been very cautious in talking with someone that you sensed might blow up if you said the wrong thing? You've watched your words. We've all done it. You've watched your words with him or her. Well, see, that shows we're not so dumb. Down underneath, we understand that, at least. But we can go way beyond that, way beyond it. So that you might actually do the same thing, but do it consciously and without fear. Before we did it fearfully. We could sense, don't say the wrong thing, boy, he'll blow up at you. And you know the next stage beyond that? I'll tell you what the next stage beyond either both fearing, saying the right, being careful so you don't offend that person, and doing it unconsciously, and doing it unconsciously. Those two. There's one stage beyond that. And that stage is called getting up from your chair and walking out of that person's life. Psychologically or physically, one or both. Isn't it beautiful that you and I can get up and walk out? And we'll do it when we see the necessity and the rightness of doing it.
Just discuss more of the idea of the person being aware of his condition. You've mentioned that when I'm in mechanical thought or when I'm in a negative state, that's all there is of me. Now, the process of breaking that is the process of reflecting on the condition itself. Is that...
Well, not quite. Let me put it this way. True, when I'm in it, I don't know that I'm in it. I don't know that I'm in it. This is why you can't tell an angry person, you can't, you know, you're mad, stop being mad, he'll deny it. He can't see a state. You know. The thing is to, as simply as possible, Leland, the important thing is to practice stopping the train. Now say what you said again, and let's see if we can catch it again. Say it again. If you can.
You've said it so simply that you've said that it's not the process of reflecting on negative
All right.
thought patterns, but the process of simply stopping them, dismissing them, being done with them.
Not that it's wrong to reflect. Get this now. I'll rephrase it. It is right to reflect, but impartially. Look, 10 minutes ago, I was rude. Because I was asleep, by the way. I'm mechanical. I was rude. Okay. Now, I'm working on myself. I'm remembering myself. I'm doing the whole business. I think back. I was rude. Okay. That's a fact. 10 minutes ago in time, I was rude. Now, this is okay so far. If I do it impartially, without going into second thought, I am rude, therefore next time I'm going to be polite. You won't be. You're still trying to be polite, and I is rude. I is always rude. Right? But impartially, there was rudeness that passed through me, that took me, we have to use me, look. A negative state called rudeness took me over, grabbed me, made my tongue say that what I said, made my face contort in rudeness, took me over. I was a slave. Okay, I see it. Therefore, I'm going to work on myself, try to watch, for example, the next situation where that person takes my coffee cup and I make a rude remark to him, I'm going to watch myself walk up to the situation and try to stop thought connected with emotion so that I won't be rude again. So that I won't suffer so much. Because I really do suffer. That's a fact. I suffer. I'm rude, and I know that that is wrong. I suffer at the moment I'm rude. Because I shake. I'm afraid you're going to hit me. And I know it's wrong. I know it's not natural. I know it's not good to be rude. Therefore, I went to the class and they said if I work and keep at it, I can stop being rude because there is another way to respond to every situation so that I don't have to be rude or angry, upset, but free of it. Now, I don't know what that means, but I'm going to work and find out. Seeing that I have been a slave to rudeness is part of the cure. So reflective thought in that sense is okay. But not condemnation and not justification. That's clear, isn't it?
Right.
Who has to explain that anymore?
Did you say that when we're in a negative state, we don't know we're in it?
That's right.
It seems-
All right, I know. Okay. I feel it, I suffer it, I don't know it, because I am it. In one sense. You see, I can feel, see, but afterward I can catch and say, I was in a negative state. At the moment, I'll deny it, because I am it, and there's no one outside of it. But at the same time, at the same time, I am paying the price of it. That is not the same thing as being aware of it in a different way. This is getting very complex. Are you following it?
Well, can't you? It seems to me that when I'm angry, I mean, I can know I'm angry. Can't a part of the mind say, I've fallen again?
And that is memory operating, say, I was angry 1/1,000,000th of a second ago. If you indeed are doing that.
Isn't it slowing down, connecting the two, slowing down the freight train?
Slowing down thought so I can see what thought I thought a minute ago, a second ago.
Like what Sally was saying, I can remember when maybe a negative state could last for 2 hours or 3. I could be in it for 2 or 3 hours.
Yeah.
I mean, I can think back 3 years ago, 5 years ago, whatever. Okay, then what I see as I work on myself, I'm slowing it down. I can see where it'll happen, and I'll be in it. And I couldn't be conscious, I couldn't be aware or awake or anything else. And then maybe it'll last, let's say, 5 minutes. And all of a sudden I'll realize, I'll walk out of the room or something, and I'll realize that for the last 5 minutes that I didn't know. I was in that state and I was just so totally absorbed that I couldn't think straight or anything else. So it's just cutting it down, trying to cut it down.
Sally, I know what you're thinking. Sally, all of us, you will experiment, and you tell me whether you're conscious of being angry at the time you are. Is there such a thing as being consciously angry, by the way? Or is anger a part of the sleep state?
You're at a moment.
I have two thoughts about that. It seems that there are times when we can, as Sally and Brett are sort of hinting at, times when we can see that the devil has taken over and he's trying to hold on, and we're somehow conscious at one level that this is happening, but at the other level he's still in control.
Very good. That's very good.
So this moves along, and hopefully the awareness ultimately prevails. That is, it's the slowing down process that Brett is talking about.
There's no question at all, but as we work on this, you can call it an alternating process. And at the very beginning, remember we say if we can break it for 1 split second at the start of our work, that's something, that's great. And then it's gone and we're mad for the rest of the day, and the next day we can break it so that we're not mad for 2 seconds, and the rest of the day and it does alternate, but gradually we grow stronger and the other grows weaker. It has to. Our whole business is to make our darkness disappear. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, further connecting it a little more as an example. We'll say tonight I was supposed to get through at 6. So I could see it. I could see the devil sneaking up because I had to do something and I wasn't going to get through at 6. So after a while, at least I can see the pattern, and I know ahead of time now, everybody will have a certain thing, and one of mine is, if I'm supposed to work, I can see all the things that enter in, and I'll say, well, I've worked 10 hours and that's enough. But then something will come up, something will happen, maybe I'll have to work another hour. So I can see the whole business of what's happening, and I can see the negative state approaching. And it's a lot easier to work on than before, because it's happened so many times before. It was mechanical and I was asleep. At least now I can see it. I know. I mean, it's just a big signal.
All right.
If I have to work overtime, and that's...
You are saying, are you not, that you can begin to see the devil tempt you. Is that
Right.
fair?
Yeah, right. Or see him
Isn't that tremendous for any of us to do? That shows we're not walking blindly right into it and blowing up. This morning we're going to proceed a bit different than usual in that I'm going to let you select the subjects that we're going to discuss this morning. Whatever subject is on your mind, something you'd like to talk about, something especially that you're afraid to talk about, simply ask the question. But first I want to review briefly something we went into last night at last night's special meeting. Just quite important to see deeply and to see with all of the mind, and not just a part of the mind that has a preference, that has a fear, that has a choice, but see it with the whole mind, which simply is this. Can you begin to say to yourself, as you go out into the world, and as you're at home with yourself, wherever you may be, say to yourself with a good deal of feeling, not negative emotions, but a good deal of feeling, because that feeling also has insight into it. Can you say to yourself something like the following? And you can put it in your own words, and you must put it in your own words. Something like this. And you are speaking, by the way, to the world, to society, and to yourself equally, not divided. What you're saying out to the world, you're saying to yourself. What you're saying to yourself, you're saying to the world, because they're the same. You're saying this. I am tired of hearing that I'm a guilty sinner. I'm tired of hearing that I owe you something. I'm tired of hearing that I have to conform to your moral codes, to your religious standards, to your beliefs about how I should behave toward you. I am tired of being accused by you. By being told I have to live the way you want me to live. I am sick and tired of your little pieces of paper that have a contract on it that says, now this is how you act. In order to be acceptable, this is how you act. I am not going to act that way anymore. Because unknowingly, I have let you, because I didn't know any better, I was ignorant to be sure, I have let you tell me what it means to be good, to be decent, to be acceptable, to be liked, to be secure, and I don't believe any of it anymore. Because I got to the point in my life where I saw it didn't make me decent at all. As a matter of fact, it did just the opposite. It filled me with a great hostility toward you tying me down. It's the way you feel, I'm telling you. You feel tied down, don't you? And if you don't see it, you'd better see it right now. You have tied me down long enough. Oh, there's so many facets to this. Right rebellion. There's wrong rebellion. Rebelling against this prison in order to go to that one, that prison is wrong rebellion. We're rebelling against all prisons, all man-made concepts of what it means to be free. No matter how destructive it is, how fearfully I do it, I'm going to do it. And if you no longer like me, God help me, don't like me, but I'm not going to endure this pseudo-morality anymore, this pseudo-goodness, this conforming to what you have told me is right and true. Because I've seen that it's a lie. And I'm tired of lying to you and of being lied to by you. I'm not going to do it anymore. This will mean This will mean that I will have to enter fully what I have seen dimly. This will mean that if I've seen a slight bit of wildness in me, if I've seen a slight bit of saying, you're not going to tie me down anymore, society, by your phony rules, I have to go 10 times as far, 20 times as far. I have to dare to lose your approval completely. Lose you as my friend, my companion, my sex partner, my wife, my husband, my political friend, my social friend, my employment friend. So that I have nothing left. And life is not worth living until I go into it and come to the end of it. But I don't know what the end is, and this is what's so terrifying. This is what's so scary. This is what makes me run back into your arms and into your political club and into your group and into your phony ideas. But I'm going to do it anyway. I'm going to say goodbye to you. And I know what's going to be your attitude when I do so. And you know too, because you've all done it in small ways. In some cases, some people be indifferent when you say, I'm not with words, but by your manner, but by your facial expression, by your words. For example, someone criticizes, you're with someone, you're with a friend, and you're beginning to work on yourself, and this friend has deep sarcasm towards someone or something, anything. And this friend, because he is weak and has been depending on you to agree with his hatred and sarcasm, he's waiting for you to nod your head, and you don't do it anymore. You know very well that out of the side of the corner of his eye, he has seen that you didn't nod anymore, and unconsciously has this slight disturbance up here, right? So he'll try again, and you don't do it again. Already he has the message. Already he is getting anxious, and already he is preparing his hostility. Because the loss of your support means the loss of his eye, and now the only resort he has is to be angry towards you or critical toward you to keep his phony self in place. Did you follow this? Do it. Do it. When he or she goes, he or she goes. And what will be your position? What we've been urging each other to do all along. To be fully in a position of being lost. Nothing is more beautiful than to be lost. Right? I know you're getting it. Very simple. Any of your groups of friends and relatives, think of them if you want, down there, that home in California or New York or wherever. Think about them. They're gathered around the dinner table and they talk about the World Series coming up on television, and the ladies talk about their new dress fashions, and they talk about their politics, and they all have very strong opinions. They've got the answers. They're not lost. They've got it made. I found out if you buy silver, it'll go up. Get something solid. Silver. That's it, huh? You know. Real estate, you got it. They've got the answers. They have found themselves, and they are sick, neurotic human beings. We're going to let go of silver and real estate and friends, and very, very importantly, we're going to let go of philosophies and religions and ideas and ideas of rightness, ideas of security, ideas that others can make us feel secure, so that we're lost and wandering out in the desert with no ideas at all to support us, not knowing whether to turn left or right or up or down, completely lost, and without making any effort to find the teacher, the book, the idea, the feeling that will rescue us from our lost state. If I remain totally lost without any answers at all, then is there anyone there who needs to have security, who needs to find answers, who needs a teacher or a book or a church? I'm gone. There is no one there who says, how do I find my way out? When there is no one there to say, how do I find my way out? Is there a way out? I need to find a way out only as long as I think there is a me who needs rescue. If there's no me, there's no need for rescue, there is nothing, and I'm out. By destroying all rescuers, all sources of rescue, by destroying them, I am out. What stands in the way of this authentic liberty? 1,000 things and one thing. The one thing that stands in my way of perceiving this, my own ignorance of it. And that ignorance of it includes many, many things that we've talked about. My wish to remain as a separate self who needs to find the way out. How hostile are you? I'm talking to each of you personally now. How hostile are you? To the degree that you're hostile, which is 99% in secret, 1% open, 99% secret and suppressed, behind the mask, behind the smile, behind the good manners, to that degree you are still seeking something outside of this nothingness, which is allness. So if you want a clue as to how far you are immersed in ignorance, it will be to the degree that you are secretly hostile against anything. Even hostile that you're not getting these things fast enough or thoroughly enough. Even that is a mistake, because you're now putting yourself in time. Now I'll tell you something, and with this I'll end this. What I'm going to tell you is so astonishing, so pure, that our ignorance can't grasp it, obviously. So what I'm going to tell you has to be seen with something other than our ignorance. Has to be seen on the level of the pure knowledge itself, which is that now in this room you are free of this hostility at this time. You're out of it now if you see it. And that's the only difference in the world, if you see it. Right now. Last night we discussed one of the forms of ignorance that keeps us from seeing this, which is the mad rush of ordinary thought. Ordinary thought running along with arguing with myself. Ordinary thought in the form that maybe I'm too stupid to grasp these things. Ordinary thought in the form that I already have my fixed beliefs, which are satisfying me, which is a lie because they're not. A belief cannot possibly satisfy because it's on the level of thought. We are left with one thing, as always. One thing, as always. Persistent, daily effort to attend to the only worthwhile business I have, which is every morning when I get up, to say I'm going to attend to bringing myself back to myself all day long, instead of losing my energy and my attention and my intelligence in stupid, foolish distractions such as wondering about my neighbor's business. It would be a very good idea, if you would remember the phrase, "What has that to do with me?" What does that have to do with me? If you lose someone or something that is very valuable to you, casually ask yourself, casually, because it's simple, casually, what has that to do with me? It has nothing to do with you. It has only something to do with your conditioned ideas of how you must have this person or this possession. It has nothing to do with your liberty at all. Now, think to yourself, what would cause you anxiety, tension, upset, hostility? Some event, what? Getting fired down at work, losing someone, you tell me. And then you say to yourself, what has that to do with me? And then you answer the question by saying, it has nothing to do with me. I may not see it yet, maybe I don't. But that's why I'm working, so I can see it has nothing to do with me, because I remember the aim I made a month ago, a year ago, 10 years ago. I refuse to be a slave any longer. And I'm not going to be. It's a little too early for a break, so let's take 10 minutes of open discussion. Any subject you like.
In connection to what you just said, would you please tell me of the deep feeling of the Savior complex?
The deep feeling of the, yeah, sure. It's very simple. Well, it depends on which way you mean. You mean I need a Savior or I am a Savior?
I am a Savior.
You are a Savior. What is that but vanity? What is that but I? I can save you. Now, a free mind doesn't have that, does it? Is that clear? A free mind couldn't have that at all. You think the saviors are those who are professional saviors. For every professional savior, there are 10 million amateur saviors. Boy, you ask that alcoholic neighbor of yours for advice on how to straighten out your life, and he'll talk for an hour. Compulsive talking, the compulsive need to feel important to someone, the need to feel that I know the answers. Well, I may not have all of them. I may drink myself drunk all day, but I'm not completely gone, and I can give you good advice in this area. It's very simple when you see it. Why should I give advice to anyone at all? The only legitimate time you can give advice, there are two levels. First, the mechanical level. Your neighbor asks you how to fix your TV set, and you're an expert in fixing TV sets. You say you change this tube over here, or whatever you do, that's legitimate. The second, which I wonder if it'll ever happen to any of us outside of in this group, is when someone who has reached the point of not knowing what to do, to the point where he asks whether life is worth living, and he asks you something about what you have learned, and he knows maybe you've studied these things, and you can give him authentic spiritual advice and then drop it. Because you're not getting, if you're not getting, a feeling of superiority out of it. And you don't need to proselyte him and say, ooh, come to our group, we've got the answers. You're still identified with the group, and you're still getting a feeling of exaltation that you are exclusive. Everyone else is wrong but this group. And you're part of the group, so you're part of the health of this world. You're still part of the sickness of the world. But you could be watching yourself as you give advice to someone and see, why did I say that? Did I say it purely, simply because, listen, because I know it's a fact. Therefore, I don't have to prove it's a fact to him or to me. I know it. I know it so well, I have no compulsion to tell anyone else about it. With that, there is no savior complex. And need I reverse it? I will very briefly. If I need a savior, I am still I, and I'm still an egotist. And believe me, if my savior is a person or a book or a group, a psychological group or a religious group, whatever my savior might be, whatever it might be, I will switch saviors at the drop of 5 cents if I think I will get that 5 cents by switching. I, self, can never be loyal to a false group because I am false. I'm doing it to get advantages, ego advantages. This is why you see betrayals and fightings in all kind of political and religious groups. When there is loyalty to truth, there is no me being loyal to truth. There's only truth. So the question of loyalty doesn't exist. There's no me to be loyal to truth. There's me dash truth, one word, one thing. And I can't possibly be disloyal because there's only one thing, not one thing to be loyal or disloyal. There's one thing, right? Do you see? The question of loyalty or disloyalty to truth doesn't come up at all. That only comes up in duality, where there's me being loyal to this or that. And where you are so-called loyal to some savior group, you will have neurotic demands on it. And one of the demands is, you keep me from seeing the lie that I'm engaged in. And they will. They'll keep you from seeing the lie, because the whole thing is a lie. And they're not going to risk losing you. They'll lie to you, because their pseudo-security depends on holding you.
This persistent daily effort that you talked about to remember ourselves or to come back to ourselves, could you go into how that might work as we're just learning these things, as we're getting knowledge throughout the day? How might...
Okay, all right. It is one thing, all right, I'll tell you, ever since you arose this morning, you have gone through a series of minor shocks, disturbances, states, little ones, not big ones, and this something big happened. little apprehensions. Okay. You felt them. You felt them definitely. But you did not see yourself feeling them. You went into the cafe. You spoke to someone at the gas station as you stopped this morning. All by yourself, you thought a certain thought, and you were disturbed by it, but you didn't see it. Daily self-work consists of slowing all my reactions down, physical, mental, emotional reaction, to the point where I can sense that when I walk into this room, there is a certain apprehension, not a big one, a little one, but it's the little foxes. I sensed that I was a little bit apprehensive as to when I looked at Juan or Joan or Bill or whoever, what's going to happen? Do I have to play a role? What do they expect of me? Do I have to smile? I'm in a bad mood. How can I cover it up? I have to walk in here fully aware of bang, 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 every thought that goes through here so that I can catch it and drop it instantly. Instantly. Because if I don't catch the thought that comes to me as I walk in the door, and it's been a week since I've seen you, and maybe a new person, and there's an association with someone I knew 10 years ago I had a fight with. So I can catch that thought and drop it now so that it doesn't continue to make me go into artificial behavior, whatever it is. And the artificial behavior could even be casualness. Hi, huh? That is artificial behavior when I'm being artificially casual. Can I shock myself into not being casual or artificial or being anything at all, but just walk in? But I have to see it, or nothing can go on beyond that. No good work can go on beyond that. You told us one time, Dick, that a year ago maybe, you used to thank the gas station man for the gas. You give him his money and say thank you. And one day you ask yourself, why am I thanking him? Right? Remember? All right, that's good. Why am I thanking him? Mechanical courtesy. Maybe you should thank. That's behind the point. Mechanical courtesy. And it suddenly occurs, here I gave him $10 for 2 gallons of gas and I'm thanking him. Can I watch my behavior at the moment I do it so as to shatter something mechanical, so that I'm not a mechanical creature going through life with all the tensions and resentments that go with mechanicalness? It is break time. That wonderful career that we have ahead of us, that beautiful romance we hope may develop, or we hope may end, all these things that we're planning in the future, we somehow sense that even if they do work out, the ache will still be there. So it's a pretty serious business. But that isn't what we're going to go into this morning. But it's part of it. Very happily, no matter what happens to you, no matter what has happened to you in the past, very happily, you need not try to handle it on the level of ordinary thought. In the first place, you'll be wasting your time. You'll simply be running over the same track again and again, trying to work out some solution through thinking about it, which will never work, and we sense it. So we lose one thing, we say, I'll substitute another. Or I'll distract myself from this pain, whatever it might be, the habit I can't break, the anxiety I feel. Nothing works. That's the problem. Everything I tried, nothing works. And every time I think I have a solution, I'm afraid that it will fail me, which it will even if it works. Because all it can do is give me a thrill. Anything that thrills me has failed me. Meeting the new boyfriend, girlfriend, making some advancement in life. Nothing at all. Now, what wonderful news. Tremendous news. No matter what happened yesterday, or 10 years ago, at this very second that I'm sitting here, I have a totally new source of help. That's all right. The word is fine. A totally new source of help, of cutting off this false solution, which is to say that at this very minute, if I can remember the small bit of advancement I have already made, the small bit of truth that I know I have, it's not much, but it's a certain amount, and I can return to that, that is, I can remember that there's a part of me that is not a part of this mad mental and emotional chasing. I can sense that this part is way above the chasing. You have to put this together yourself. I'm giving it to you. You have to put it together. So that with this strong emotion, this strong feeling, I really don't have to chase around like I'm always doing, especially trying to convince myself that I've either got the answer or I'm going to find it. Because when you say I'm going to find the answer through coming to these classes and reading these books, you're still anxious. You're not free at all. You're still saying someday I will know the answer and be free of this awful ache. And one problem with the ache? You can't define it. You can't even see it clearly. You don't even know what it is. All you know is that you feel it and suffer from it. And indeed, it is not necessary to identify it. If you had to do that, you'd spend years trying to track it back to where Mama slapped you once, or you got in trouble with some man or some woman. Fortunately, that is not necessary. What is necessary is to know that with right knowledge, I will not any longer be that person who was involved in the former things. That astonishingly enough, there is something that is not of the same nature as my chasing and striving and my heartache. How do I find it? How do I get to it? By getting real serious, looking at the heartache, the pain, at the moment it occurs, and saying consciously to myself, no. No. You think this is easy. You think it is easy as I'm telling you. You try it. But do it. The problem, obviously, is not with that man or woman I had the problem with, that financial problem where I lost a lot of money, where I acted like an idiot. The problem is the fact that I remember that state and get an emotional experience from it, which is cement. That emotional experience being valuable to me because I know nothing else. Living in the jungle has been the only world I have known. This is my familiar world. And no matter how many times I come to these meetings or read in these books that it is necessary for me to walk out of the jungle, no matter how many times I hear that, nothing happens. Nothing happens because the jungle is very pleasurable, in quote marks. The jungle is very pleasurable because it keeps what I call me in place, which we've gone over many times before. Can I look around the jungle and see myself as being mad in the middle of it, and see all these mad people whom I call my friends, all these insane people, and I'm right along with them? Can I see all these things and say, as familiar as you are, as comforting, in quote marks, as you are because you're familiar, I'm not going to associate with it anymore. I'm going to walk out. So when I get to the edge of the jungle and cast a glance back, and there are all my idiotic friends waving to come back, which is really in my own mind. They're not there at all. This is my own mind wanting me to go back and start the whole process over. Maybe in these classes we can give each other the courage to get to the edge of the jungle, to where the clearing is, which is completely foreign, completely unfamiliar. There's no way to recognize it at all. Because if you know what it's like, that is merely your thought repeating itself, and so you'll go into another jungle which you will call a meadow. And you'll soon find out from what happens there that it's another jungle, because you'll meet the same people, same idiotic boyfriend or girlfriend, the same confused and hurt people. At the edge of the jungle is the place of self-destruction, which is I'm going to tell you something. You need all the strength you can have to get to this position. The edge of the jungle is horrifying beyond your worst imagination. You think you're in a horror now of what you're like? You think this is scary living with you? Indeed it is, but you have seen just that much of it. In other words, indeed we are all of us, 50 times worse off than we can imagine. Look how easy you can get your feelings hurt. Look how easy someone can cross you and make you angry. Look how easy you cry. Look how easily you get lonely. Look how easily you can be made anxious by losing something or someone. That's the bare surface of what is wrong with us down below, which is necessary to see. Now, happily again, when I get to this point at the edge where I can start to see far, far more wrong with me than I had possibly imagined, to the depth that I see this horror of my life, then there is a real chance for me to shatter it. Because I will also, it's a curious thing, so very curious, that the worse I see myself to be, the more I see the possibility of destroying it. Look at your life and look at the lives of some friends of yours. Now let's select someone, maybe us, maybe someone else, who we call self-righteous. You know what it means to be self-righteous? Someone who thinks they're a good moral person, someone who's kindly. I think we all should love each other, and the other kind of lies that go with it. You'll see that that person has no idea of the horror of his hypocrisy, therefore sees no chance at all, no opportunity at all to change himself. You see, look, egotism never, never, never sees itself as egotism, right? Never. We're blind to this in ourselves. Having never seen what we are like, we can never, therefore, go to the next step of seeing the opportunity of changing ourselves. All right. So by going deeper into the horror, the lying, the little trickeries, the little deceits, out of that hell itself, comes the first glimpse of our heaven. But it has to be a very real hell in order to make room for heaven, because it will destroy itself. Because I, to use a figure of speech, will die in the flames of my own hell. I will actually die in it. And there's no description of this at all, but you can make the experience yourself a little bit at a time, which really doesn't involve time, but involves instant perception of what we're talking about. If I can walk down this path, glancing in one direction inside of myself, so to speak, and see what a stupid, egotistical liar I am, how hypocritical I am, without being afraid of it, without condemning it, without condemning myself, because looking in the other direction, I have knowledge. This direction is the idiot. In this direction, I have certain knowledge that says even to call myself a drunken idiot is wrong. When you can put these two things together at once, what a fast, it's incredible. I can't describe it to you. When I can glance here and see what a stupid dumbhead I am, see it as a fact, not as a self-condemnation, and then switch real fast and see that it is wrong to call myself that, and alternating back and forth until I can see how stupid I am, and then drop the identification, because I understand that it's still a label, because this knowledge that I've acquired in class and in reading tells me I mustn't do that. I put an end to the idiot. It's so dreadfully important, and it takes a long time, but we're going to do it in these classes. It takes a long time, but it's a right move to look at the idiot in me and handle it correctly. All our lives, up until this time, we have handled it incorrectly. I know every one of you would condemn yourself for behaving badly. For example, any one of you in this room, say during the break, I could speak very sharply to you, very harshly to you. I would be doing it consciously, not mechanically. I could speak very harshly to you over something, some little thing you did. You blocked the doorway like we tell you not to do, or you did some little thing. And I would see the expression on your face that you took it wrongly, that you're not able to take rebuke consciously.